you're listening to this, it might sound simple.
No, it
Uh,
is simple. It is simple. So quitting is like crossing the threshold, right? It's like getting married. It is simple. People make it so complicated for no reason. Quitting is the simplest. I mean, you know what's hard is like putting a tire on an F1 car. That's really hard. Taking it on and off. There's a lot of different steps. Quitting is like,
Have you ever seen a lawyer who started his own VC fund? Well, today you will. Welcome to the podcast, Evan.
thank you. I'm sure I'm not the first or the last.
So really looking back, right? Like when you connect the dots from your previous roles and life experience, maybe even all the way back to childhood, what has made you become the VC you are today at Talok Capital as the GP?
Ridiculous first question. What about like how I'm doing today? Or there's no warm up, just straight
Nope,
into it.
we're jumping straight into it.
Okay, great. So you want me to connect my childhood to venture capital? Okay. Well, yeah, actually, great question. There's a lot of directions to go. I think, yeah, one thing that jumps out at me is, you know, my relationship with my dad and what he taught me growing up. So we weren't very close. He is 50 years older than me. So there's a big generation gap. And he's a doctor, a cardiologist, and he was working all of the time, like straight up out of the house at 6 p.m. or 6 a.m. Back in the evening, 7 p.m. He has his dinner. He doesn't, he's been working all day, doesn't really want to be bothered most days. Wants to read the news and, catch up on other things in life. And, by the time it's like 8 or 9, it's like everyone's going to bed and getting ready for school or whatnot. And he would, crazy work ethic. He would go from dinner to his office and then do more work and, pay the bills and watch TV and again, yeah, whatnot. And then, as a doctor, you're on call at night. So I think the work ethic, just watching someone with that work ethic, definitely, it just set the standard. It was never a question of how hard you have to work. It was, that's what your dad did. If you want to compare to him, like, well, maybe you shouldn't. I'm my mother's oldest son, so yeah. I mean, it's sort of. I didn't want to be a doctor. I didn't want to follow in those footsteps, but I had to keep the work ethic. So that's part of the foundation. And then he always like talked to me about investing, mostly public equities. But yeah, he told me some funny stories over the years. Like, well, he and his classmates started a medical practice in Florida and they were making some money. And with all the spare money, his partner was buying some real estate. And my dad was having kids and I guess paying for, his kids and his wife and, bought a home and had nice meals, whatever. And, whatever. Fast forward 30 years and this guy owns, all Fort Lauderdale real estates. He grew up very poor in New York, in the Bronx. And his mentality, we might call it a scarcity mentality. But ultimately, it's hard to call it a scarcity mentality when you haven't stood in those shoes. And, you have to understand it's like immigrant family, not a lot of food on the table. You're just trying to survive. So for him, that was, become a doctor and have this stable job and don't do risky investments. Like that was not available to that generation. And it became available to me and I went for it. But that's sort of the childhood part. I mean, there's obviously a bunch of stuff in between that where there's a struggle or I'm attracted to tech and VC, but doubt myself and have other people doubting me. So it's been a crazy journey. But yeah, I would say like if I had to point to one thing that influenced me to get there for my childhood, it would be my father.
And I'm curious, because your father's like, okay, I've grew up in such an environment where I want to make sure that, my children doesn't experience what I've did. So then I've got to work constantly. And that is, I would assume his form of happiness, right? Like what and how do you define happiness versus your father?
That's a great question. Well, we'll have to have him on the podcast to say I can't speak for him. I don't know his definition of happiness. Um, I think you're right, though. Happiness is sort of contextual or relational. So I think his version of happiness is always with the backdrop of being poor in the Bronx. Like, I think, and, it's not just like money. It's not just about money. We all have family environments. I think it's easy to forget. Certainly, I think we do this often in the West. Like someone's 60 years old, and we don't think about they were once a kid, and they may have had a tough childhood, and so I think a lot of our life. So there is happiness, and then I think there is being reactionary, and a lot of people go through life just reacting. And so this might look like, hey, I grew up really poor, so money. All I want is money because it's a reaction to being poor, and it's not that I actually value money. It's that you know, this thing caused me pain, so I'm going to do the opposite thing, and this is not the way to live. This is it is almost as toxic as, Peter Thiel talks about Rene Girard, this like philosopher from Stanford. His favorite professor at Stanford was Rene Girard. Rene Girard, amongst other things, wrote about triangular desire. And the fundamental concept of triangular desire is this. The fundamental, idea being expressed by Rene Girard. We should have Rene Girard on the podcast because I can't speak for him. But my understanding is that the idea is right in a triangle. We think of desire as one to one, meaning mm, the relationship is between me and the car, right? Like I want a Mustang, Ford Mustang, and like you can almost like you think of yourself as the subject and the car is the object, and it's a one-to-one relationship. This is how we think about desire. I want to date that woman. I want to eat that food. This is how we think of desire. But Girard says that there's always or almost always like a third body at play. So it's not that you want the car, it's that you want to be like the dude who drives the car that you saw driving the car, and that's why you want the car. Or you don't want that food. You want it like you want to be healthy like your friend, and so you actually just want to be like your friend, and you don't want to date that woman. You don't even find her attractive. You just everybody else finds her attractive, and that's why you want to date her. So I think that there is people get caught in that a lot, and so again, I really can't speak for what people desire or what makes them happy. I mean, I think you can see when someone's happy when they light up and smile and laugh, right? These are like moments of happiness, but I think they're more tickling the brain. I think true happiness is about being aligned with your purpose, and it doesn't always look like happiness. I don't know if you watch football, but there was this coach this year that won the national championship in college, the Indiana coach. People were making fun of him online because he's like looks grumpy. You saw this? Yeah. And I don't know, like there are interviews and like memes and videos about this. Like he says he's not happy. He says he's not happy until they won the championship. Like he's dissatisfied. But that's not true. He's like firmly rooted in his purpose. He's definitely happy. If he had died before, in the middle of the season before winning, he would have been. I mean, that's like he was doing what he loved. And I think so doing what you love and being rooted in your purpose makes you happy. I think my dad's purpose that he adopted was in a lot of ways to sort of build a family and give his children a better opportunity than what he had. And that, yeah, to your point, like made, I think I think he's happy with that, with how he's lived.
And what's your purpose?
It's interesting. I mean, I think in some ways we don't have one purpose. I think also that it can like morph and change over time. Right now, I can speak about like what I feel right now. I feel what I'm being called to help allocate capital to amazing entrepreneurs and support them in, changing the world for the better. I think this is one way to, this is one purpose that I've identified that's currently active. Yeah.
Yeah, and what you're saying about a string of purposes, and obviously this forms from your environment, it forms from when you were from your childhood, and you could be technically reactionary to pain, right? There's all these variables, but then when you follow your purpose and you just do that instead of the triangular of like, hey, you know, I want that because other people want it versus I want that because I actually want it. And once that dot starts to connect, and I'm sure it has connected for you, Evan, you know and understand what happiness is. I mean, VC, right? Long hours could be pretty tough. What does a day in your life look like, right? Like, choose a day in this week or a previous week, and then tell me, like, 8 a.m. I wake up, 9 a.m. I do this, and then go
Mhm.
down.
Okay. I'm pulling up my calendar so we can like go look at. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, this was Thursday the 19th. I met an advisor for the first time who contacted me on LinkedIn. So I woke up, sorry. I woke up. I wasn't working in my dreams. I woke up, sadly sometimes check my phone. I try to do that not immediately. I try to see if anyone liked my tweets, like what has happened in the metaverse. How did I do yesterday? Did any of my friends text me? Is everything okay? I try not to read my email. But anyway, so sometimes check my phone. When I'm really good though, there's a morning routine of like brush my teeth and pray pretty much. It's pretty much my morning routine. And then I've lately been taking walks in the park and calling my mom. She's in Florida, so it works out. Like if I'm up at 6 a.m. or something, it's like perfect. Yeah, those are the essentials, I would say. Usually have coffee, but I try to wait 30 minutes at least before having it after I wake up. And then I most days will work out in the morning. Sometimes I skip my workout. Sometimes I work out at night. I try to like either run or lift weights. And then, yeah, then it's off to the races. On the 19th, I had a 8 a.m. call with an entrepreneur who's now based in Serbia, but an exited and very successful entrepreneur who reached out to me on LinkedIn. We're meeting again next week. So I took that call for 30 minutes and we met. And 9 a.m., I met a local entrepreneur in San Francisco. We got coffee, met, a young Canadian student who's working on robotics there. We chatted a bit, exchanged info. Then I jump into a networking call with some guys who hit me up on Twitter building an AI companion. Then I get into another call with some semiconductor dude who I wanted to invest in and I offered to invest in. He turned me down the next day. And I got on the phone with I think if she's like a community builder out of New York, but I think she'll be a man. Could be a VC eventually. Shout out Serena. She's great. So I got on the phone with her. Then I went to lunch with a founder. We talked about basically the same stuff, life. Ended up helping her set her valuation for her pre-seed round and committing to be the first check. I don't know. The rest is like, I don't know. I talked to like one of my best friends, maybe go shopping, whole time like listening to music. I don't know, like talking to people on the street and, emailing and, doing business, like talking to my accountants, it's like, and yeah. And then I try to shut off work, you know, or take a break around like 5 or something, 6 maybe. Doesn't happen every day. That evening I had happy hour with a colleague. So I went to that and then, and then I went from that. They had like a New Orleans themed party. We hung out for a little bit and then I secured an invitation to travel to do some fundraising. And then I went and met my friend and his wife at a Chinese Lunar New Year, I think it was just Lunar New Year at this bar in San Francisco. And we had a celebration. She's pregnant. So, I hadn't seen her since she got pregnant and, met some people there. I love Lunar New Year in part because I think there's like a custom to not talk about work. So I try just not to talk about work a lot, when I'm off. My brain is never really off, but I can turn it off. But yeah, every day is different.
Yeah, it sounds like you're really just constantly meeting people, right? And learning about their story, their life story, their perspectives, helping them, set their valuation, helping them with VC stuff as well. So when it comes to, well, it seems like you're a natural at this, obviously, but to break it down to like aspiring VCs, right? So how on earth do you actually start to build a relationship with someone who's maybe more senior than you, or just like a VC who's really busy?
With other V's, well, I think, yeah, if that's your question, then well, first of all, yes, I talk to a lot of people. I love people, but I also love reading. I also love products. I love fashion. I love many things. So do what you love. That's what kind of how we started a little bit. Not that doesn't need to be a job, right? Like you can be a people person and work in many different organizations. You can have many different titles, but if you love people, do something where you talk to people. Don't do something where you never talk to people. That is a bad fit. And so what I'll say just briefly there is like there are many VCs that don't like people, and they're good at what they do. Their maybe approach looks different, and this is just one day, but I'm sure you can make a shit ton of money in VC. This is without meeting anyone. Increasingly, our world is more and more antisocial. I think there's like a pro-social. I think we need to like return to talking to each other. But if you're just in it for the money, you actually like don't really need the people, and that's the world we've designed. But your question is, how do you network with VCs? I mean, look, everyone wants to talk to a peer, so go do the thing. And what does that mean? I mean, I think for me, like it took a few years. Like my path in was nobody cared about. No one thought I was an interesting investor. Like no one knew I was investing, but I was writing some angel checks in 2020, like 2 or 3, and I had founded a lot of companies. So I think it's just how bad do you want it? Period. Because if you really want something, you will, and again, not triangular desire, but direct desire, then you will let it transform you. And what that means is like, you're going to take action if you really want it. And that's why people are so like, people are outcome. People don't trust words, which I think is so stupid. It's like the stupidest take ever. Like, I just look at your actions. By the way, you don't see all my actions. So like this makes no sense. But and the reason we use words is because we have agreed upon meaning. Actions we don't have agreed upon meaning. It's such a stupid philosophy. Anyways, eventually, let's say you want to be rich, let's say, but you work, 6 hours a day. Well, like if you really want to be rich, you're probably gonna work more eventually, more hours. And so uh I think that if you really want to be in VC or investing or startups, which is all like the same thing, it's all kind of the same thing. It's not, but it's all related. Then you're probably gonna move to San Francisco, right? You're probably gonna start doing things. And the long, after some time when you start doing things, you learn things, you meet people, and that when you have information or knowledge or connections, something to bring to the table, then just bring it to VCs. Most of them are going to like not, most of them are like, if you're not established, most people will in any industry will write you off because, well, they have other competing needs in life. It's hard. They probably have tons of inbound. So they would respond to Sam Altman, but they won't respond to you, which is reasonable. But you just need one to respond. And so you build from there. And but do the thing. And if you're watching this, there's a different, fear is really normal. There's also constraints, right? Not everyone can move to San Francisco. Everyone has the money, but it's actually pretty fucking cheap to get a one-way flight. I'm not saying go be homeless and blah blah blah, but like but the point is, I think most importantly, fear is the blocker. And in Dune, they say what fear is the mind killer. I actually think fear is the heart killer. And if you really love something, you perfect love eliminates all fear. I think might be a quote from the Bible. Let me look it up. Perfect love casts out fear. That is John 4:18. 1 John 4:18. Mature unconditional love, specifically God's love, eliminates fear, particularly the fear of punishment or judgment. Yeah.
Is it the fear of the entire environment and the world turning against you? Or could you go a little more into like what fear is that? And what do you mean by countering with per unconditional love?
Well, everyone's fear looks different. So, I mean, like, again, you can't, it's not a universal fear that people have. Some people are scared of dogs. Some people are scared of speaking up. Some people are scared of being fat, right? Like, or being perceived as fat. So, but I think, so professionally, people have a lot of fear of missing out. People have a lot of fear of like being found out that they're not good enough. I would say the fundamental fear in career that people have, and by the way, it's not that people have no fear, it's just their relationship to fear is better. But like people who are really successful, their relationship to fear is very healthy. I think most often this is developed through like becoming competent, y- but if you can only become competent by trying, you have to in the beginning you have to either get over your fear or or just ignore it, whatever. And then love, yeah, it's interesting. Love contrasting with fear.
Like embracing your fear, right? Like accepting it. Is that the direction which, humans should take to really just resolve that bad relationship with fear by just embracing it?
Yeah, for sure. Like love everything, but definitely love yourself. I think what the fear is, if you have pure intentions and you want to be in VC, just this is the application, and you're scared that you'll fail and your parents are going to think you're a failure. You're scared that I'll just speak to some of my fears. Actually, this is much better. I was always scared of like going for something. There wasn't anything else to go for besides VC. There was nothing I really wanted to go for besides this. But once a couple years ago, I realized that like I have the opportunity and this is what I want. And I'm scared. Maybe also it's like doubtful of myself, doubtful. Like I can't, these other people that do this, it's probably because they're smarter than me or they have better connections than me, but whatever, right? It's just, but it's, how could I do that? So there's another element and layer there, like, around doubt, which is, I think, different than fear. But the fear at times came up like when I had to like double down and invest my money and decide to quit law, things like this. The fear is hilarious. Fear is related to your desire. So the fear is like, oh, Evan, like if you stop making like short, if you give up law, what if VC doesn't work out, but you give up law? Well, then you'll have no money. You spend all your money. You have no money. You have no like good next way to make money, and you still don't have what you want. But money doesn't matter. Like to me, it's like what's behind the money? Why does the money matter? Right? That's the question. And the money matters because I want to like marry someone and like own a house and like have maybe a kid or like maybe I want to I want to do things with money. Also, there's a status thing where I'm getting old. It's almost like a scorecard in your head of like, oh, my friends from college and my friend just had a baby and he's married and here I am. I'm going to be a failed venture capitalist. I'm scared. I'm scared of what that looks like. And yeah, it's mostly about ego. I think you get over. I think that those fears are like mind tricks actually, because it's all about belief, self belief. If I went broke and it's fine. No one wants to marry me. If I didn't have children, if I had no money and my friends were doing well, you need to the only way to defeat that fear is to have faith that faith in the universe, but also belief in yourself that even if I go to zero, I'm gonna be okay. But I would say most people do not have that belief.
And what was that moment, or was it a long duration when you just like severed all, or if not like most of that fear, so you can jump right into VC?
Well, it wasn't it was more of getting pulled into VC. It wasn't like jumping in. And then no, I was excited. I mean, when you really want something, you're excited and you do it, right? But then you don't know what it's just like, starting a new job or moving, going to college. Oh yeah, I really want to go to Harvard. I'm accepting, I'm going. And then you're in class and you're like, "Oh man, this is kind of tough actually," right? Or like like I mean, maybe but when you start things, it's easy to start things. It's really easy. And it's not a starting something is binary. You start or you don't. But the things that you want to do, you're going to start. And then once you're in it, you're going to find out if you really want to do it.
You kind of got pulled into it, but you made it happen, right? And you had to be okay with the sacrifices, which is, maybe, down the line, I see my buddies, they have all their wife and children and
It's
family.
happening right now. Dude, I ran into my college friend on the street today.
No
Um,
way.
Yeah, yeah, weird. And yeah, like we catch up and it's like, all those friends are getting married. And yeah, it's just people, but you pick your path. Like, what was more important? Following this dream was very important to me. And um, I was willing to sacrifice certain things. I'm not upset about that. You have clarity. If you don't have clarity, go, figure out what it takes to get it. I think it may mean like cutting people out of your life for even if it's temporarily. It may mean that you cut them out and you don't see them again and it's okay. It may mean like taking a break from work. It may mean, Obama has a had an arc that I think people don't know about. And I'm not sure that it necessarily like he didn't talk about this as being attributing this to like clarity in his finding clarity in his life. But there was a period in college where he describes as like an ascetic period, ascetic, ASCETIC, and the word means like almost monk mode. It means like withdrawn and yeah, monkish, I think, and contemplative. So he had like a whole year, I think, or more where he was in college and he was just like reading and like not, going out much. I think, yeah, you got to get clear on what you want and what you're good at and what the world needs. Like you have to think very clearly. It's harder today than it's ever been.
Yeah, and that reminds me of, the quote where it's like, you can have everything, but you can't have it all at once. Where it's like you have four facets of your life. One is family, work, wellness, and health, and then friends, right? And then you can't have like your burner, your fire. You can't
Disagree with this.
really. Okay. What are your thoughts
Also,
on
so they say the same thing in college. Like you can have good grades. At least like where I went to school, they said like you can have good grades, you can sleep, or you can have like a social life, but you can't have, but you can't have all three. You can have two of the three. Yeah, you got to give up sleep in that situation. I think I think I love sleeping. I love like a good 6 or 7 hours, 7 hours of sleep. But I think sleep is the cousin of death. No, you can have it all, but it requires integration, and integration is incredibly hard.
And have you seen someone in your life that has it all, has all those four categories, just like exactly how they wanted it?
Name the four categories.
Family, relationships, work, wellness and health, and then
Yeah,
friend.
LeBron James.
And explain a little.
He has, you know, guys like one of the more popular
The
people
OG.
in the world, handsome, rich, great relationship with his wife, good relationship with his kids. So what I mean, yeah, his work. He's one of the best. He's the best at his job in his industry right now. One of the best. Shout out SGA is coming for the top spot. I think he's healthy. I mean, I think that it requires enormous focus and sacrifice, but you don't have to sacrifice those things. You have to sacrifice the bullshit. Like
Which is what?
he doesn't party. He doesn't like talk to women. Like he's not chatting to women who are not his wife. He's not playing video games all the time. Now, these things are not like they're bullshit to him. Other people build their whole life around them. And I think, that's it can be valid. Like some people, like you said, family, some people want the pillar of their life to be like partying. And you can do that. And it works. And it could be like a really nice life. If everyone in the world did that, we would fall apart. But yeah, I think you definitely get to pick. You can't have everything, period. Like you can't have everything, but you get to pick what's valuable to you, and then integration. So because LeBron chose to play sport, well, he's going to be like he needs to be healthy for his job. And by the way, he married someone who values health and his work and family. So you need a partner who values what you do, which is hard to find. And especially when you don't even know your values. Like as a kid, you don't. And that's why he's so remarkable, is because I mean, he's been on this grind since he's been like 18, and most of us at 18 were a mess. But yeah, I just reject what you're saying. I think like imagine if all you work with all your friends. Well, boom, two birds, one stone. What if there are people who work with their spouse? Boom, two birds, and they're friends with their spouse. Boom. So
So I guess like it makes sense in the sense that you can have what you want, but you have to be really clear about it. Because my perception, right, at first, before even talking to you on this advice that you gave me, I was like, okay, um, you should have everything, but then max it out, right? Like max it out. But what you made me realize is that you should have what you want, but you have to be actually really clear on what you want. Whether it is, like I want to be like the maximum on like health and work. And then I also want, to make sure I have family that supports that. And that's really, really important, right? So you have to be really clear about what you want. And it's hard, right? Like it's really difficult.
it's a values exercise,
Yeah.
and our world right now is, because of all the disruption, our values are called into question. You see this playing out in many different facets of life. Traditional values are being questioned, which I think we're seeing a backslide against that, because it's wrong. Not all You can't just throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like, yeah, there were some bad things in the past. There were some things that, like racism. That was something we should leave in the past, that we are going to leave in the past. It's not it's happening. Does that mean everything was bad? Like if you were in the deep south in the Civil War era, for example, does that mean every single facet of their life was ugly and bad and evil and that they were bad people and that no,
Probably not.
no. And so the task is for us as a civilization to look at the past and to say, what do we like about it and what do we not? And collectively, but not in a populist way, I think. In a sort of, I mean, it could be populist. It could be populist, but it's actually just a question of like what is true and good. So, and it requires, I think, a philosophically minded people to do this work. And then the philosophically minded people share this with the world and communicate this with the world. And it's not a king's decision to say, yes, racism is bad. And, it's now illegal to be racist for like, how do you even, because this is like thought police. You can't really do that. So instead of trying to be a thought police, why don't you just be an influencer for good? And so I think this is the moment we're in right now. People are saying that was a very Chinese time in my life. They want to be very Chinese. Why do they say that? Because there is a cultural, question of what does it mean to be Chinese and what if it's actually fun or good to be like, there's just an open question about what are the right values. And I think it's just a fascinating time. It's not a battle between the past and the future. It's the present is we're not really like we're talking about the future and what we want, but we're also talking about like what does it look like today ultimately? What does it look like tomorrow, not 20 years out? And it's we're gonna upgrade. We're gonna upgrade. Now, if you played video games and if you played Pokemon, and you upgrade from like Charmander, so if you want to upgrade to Charmeleon, from Charmeleon to Charizard, which you do want to upgrade, like actually at some point it's just natural you're going to upgrade. You don't like leave everything in the past. You say like, okay, like we're just going to get bigger muscles now and we're going to get like a new attacks and we got wings now. And like but you leave certain things in in the old evolutionary state and you adopt new, but it's the same creature. And that is, I think that's the task for all of us, but definitely culturally and as a society is as you evolve as a person and you go through your teens and 20s and 30s and 40s, I mean, never stop evolving, right? Until you die. But it's not like become a different person. You don't change your name and like change your identity. There are things you like about yourself and there are things you don't. And it's okay to leave the things you don't like in the past and develop new, habits.
Yeah, and what you are talking about, right? Like it's hard, to just like let go of what you've held on and built up.
Why?
It's
Why is
time
it hard?
cost.
Why?
It's some cost. It's like I did all this, and then
I think we're often in denial, but I want to hear.
we can actually like give an example of, let's say you have a friend, right? Let's talk about friends, and you kind of just like you enjoyed that relationship with that person, but then as you evolve and they evolve, everyone is changing, but at a different pace. So as you end up evolve, you guys are just not really like that
Mhm.
close anymore. You want to be close with that person,
Okay.
and it's hard to let go of that
It's
when you're holding on to it.
it's grief. You need to grieve. I've struggled with this in my life a lot. Yeah, I mean, even growing pains in kids, you have like it hurts to grow, and it's can hurt a lot to lose people you love, or yeah, even to lose elements of culture that we love for sure. It's sad. There's some nostalgia. There's some, it's definitely sad. But I think we live in reality. We don't live in fantasy. Fantasy is cool, including, video games and the metaverse and um, all of these things like that we're going to develop. But firmly, yeah, I know for a fact that at least with respect to our brains and our minds, we live in reality, not fantasy. So this is what being delusional means. Truly delusional means you are actually spending more time in fantasy than reality. And look, there's a blurred line, and that's what kind of makes life amazing, I think, actually. Letting go is one of the hardest things to do, and Buddhism has been the most helpful teacher with respect to letting go for me.
Yeah, and I mean, talk about that, man. Like it seems like you believe in God for, all the people listening to this, when has that faith started for you? And I guess what has it revolutionized for you?
Yeah. So there's this quote that I saw on Instagram. I think I was outside of this church in Mexico. There's this beautiful plaza in Mexico City, and I went there alone on like a Sunday, and it's very there's very commercial and lots of people eating and stuff. But I was listening to music, reading a book, thinking, meditating, and I saw this quote, and this was like 2 years ago or something. But I've and faith like conviction as the founder is the same thing, by the way. Developing faith in like God or anything like the bus schedule, right? Like is the same as developing conviction in a founder. We should just call it faith, actually. We probably shouldn't call it conviction. It's Americans can't read anymore, right? It's too big of a word, I think. It means the same thing. So there's this Ernest Hemingway quote. It's quite beautiful. I think it's wrong in part, but it's a great quote. It's a good start, right? It's a conversation opener. And the quote is this: "The world breaks all of us eventually, and many of us are stronger or are strong in the broken places." And yeah, I find this to be just so profound, beautiful. Like if there's another, oh gosh, how am I not? Leonard, I don't know his name. He does the song Hallelujah. Yeah. Leonard Cohen. My roommate just gave me the name. Phone a friend. Leonard Cohen did, I think, what Jeff Buckley did Hallelujah. I think they both do the song. Anyways, this guy says something really beautiful, which is similar, which is like something to the effect of like the everyone's broken, that's how the light gets. Have you heard these quotes before?
I remember the story of Hallelujah, where it's like, I think it was a song that kind of just like became popular, not instantly, but through like a really, really long duration of time and iterations. And then like finally, after like a decade or something, it just suddenly just like worked. But it's such a beautiful song.
I will definitely listen to it when we hang up. I haven't heard it in a long time. But the point is that I think religion, anything, any sort of belief, it's not immediate. I mean, look, love at first sight exists, but like, have you ever fallen in love? Yeah. Do you feel comfortable talking at all about it? Like the first interaction, maybe?
The first is like you find yourself physically attracted to them, right? And then the
Really?
second part of love, for me at least, is being attracted to the way they interact with the world. And for me, the person that I, you know, would find love in is someone who just like isn't afraid of like failing, isn't afraid of just going straight at the world and just like charging forward and just never stop trying. And that's like the first time I fell in love.
Interesting. Beautiful. I would love to hear more one day. Love is so you meet people. And now I'm particularly talking about romantic love. You meet someone, or this is my experience, but I think it is the universal experience. And they stand out, like you said. That person's different. Now, yeah, maybe there's an attraction, but sure, attraction, whatever. It doesn't mean it's not about sex or even like. I think there is some sense of beauty, but it's it's ultimately they stand out and I want to learn more. And so you can say that's love at first sight, but the reality is you don't know them. You don't know their heart and soul. Now, you might see them dancing on the dance floor and you think you know their heart and soul, but you don't. You need more exposure. Like you need to really like a person is something to be discovered, not and explored and like studied and known, right? To be known. And this does not happen on a dating profile, right? This is not it's not the same thing. It happens over time and it happens through in reality and it happens when you see them fuck up and or when they're at their best. Like this is how you fall in love. You see the spirit and soul of someone and it's gradual. You probably could do that in one sitting, but most of us have other things to do. You probably couldn't do that in one like wake cycle. So it happens over time. And this is the same way that we form a relationship with the divine. It's even, I would say, even more, the divine is different because we can relate to humans. We can't really relate to the divine as easily. So it's harder.
And talk more about that. Like, what about the divine that is so divine about it?
This is that God is like is perfect and humans are not. That's the difference.
There you
And
go.
so and so God will never let you down, but humanity will.
Yeah. And, for the audience listening too, and this is why people, get into religion because it is something where they have like a solid, like a bedrock foundation for them to just lean on. Let's talk about, your superpower in VC, because I know we talked a lot about life. Let's talk about your superpower in VC. If you had to choose one, what is it? Is it secondaries? Is it port health? Is it deal sourcing? What does that look like for you?
Mm, why do I have to choose one? Can
That
I
you're
have
the best at.
that I'm the best at?
Yes.
See, I'm not that into like Marvel and DC, but Batman had a lot of gadgets, and Spider-Man had more than one superpower for sure. And Superman definitely has more than one move. That's a great question. And I also think of this as like unique. What's your unique, like you said, what are you the best at? What my superpower that I think that is underrated is there's just so many. I'll say humor. I'll say humor.
Yeah, I agree. And then as skills, right? Like from the time when you were a lawyer, what was the most transferable to VC?
From a lawyer, oh, it's fascinating. One is management of people. So when you're in, I've heard many people, many lawyers say that the best job that trained them to be a lawyer, a corporate lawyer, was being a waiter at a restaurant. This is like peak service industry job. And so the most transferable skill is understanding that, in a service business, everything's about the customer and make the customer happy and just customer orientation. I would say that's incredibly transferable.
Yeah, and most people don't expect that, right? Like they kind of just expect like, okay, so you know the legal stuff and that's like what you bring to VCs. So would you say like founders, do they also choose you because you can help them with like the startup legal stuff? Or is that like almost
Nobody cares about law.
nobody?
I'm joking. I'm helping a couple of my portcos with legal stuff right now. I wish more of them asked me for help. But law and compliance, and yeah, law and as drag nets on your rocket ship, and this is not the right metaphor. They are it is more like a seatbelt in a car is more, which is takes 1 second, you put it on, saves your life. It's much more like a seatbelt than a drag net, and I like keeping people safe. It's like one of my passions, or it's one of the most important things to me is safety, and so I really, this guy I work with had this phrase, and he said, compliance is the tail that wags the dog. No idea what that honestly doesn't make sense. I think he was saying compliance isn't important or it's in the back of the body, but I don't think he realizes that the tail was so important for a dog. So, having said that, if you're not, it is true that if you're not successful, it probably doesn't matter. But if you're planning on being successful, you want to have your affairs in order. And look, there are existential legal issues and there are like non-existential ones. But you know, in general, you'd rather everyone should have a good lawyer because you'd rather have less problems than more. For the existential ones, you really need to like. There are mistakes you can make that in life. Forget legal. There are things you can do that you can't take back, and you do your best at the time, and you do like you exercise your judgment. So if you're ignorant of certain things, like then you'll be forgiven, I think, more easily than if you knowingly do something wrong. But it really like, yeah. Ha- ha- Now, having said all of that, law has been such an expensive thing for a long time that the cost has to come down. This is the only way that entrepreneurs can afford it. Most people are scared of legal because of the money. But now we're back into the fear cycle. You see it.
Yeah, and what would you say to those founders, who is scared of legal that's gonna put maybe even a halt on their rocket ship? Like what general resources should they just like kind of look at, or should they just get a lawyer? And then on the other side, right? Like for maybe VCs who wants to start a fund, like does the legal part like take so long? And what's your advice on just even starting a fund and getting the legal side set up?
Yeah, the founder advice is like very straightforward, and it's like mind blowing that I still, it has to be related to fear and money, because like we don't ask this question anywhere else in life. If you say like, "Hey, what advice would you give to someone who wants to have nice teeth?" Be like, "Go to the dentist and orthodontist." Period. You wouldn't say like, "Well, like you can do your research. You can research it all you want. You go to a professional." So you have problems in any area in life, go to a professional, period. Other question was advice for VCs that want to start a fund? Just any
Let's find
advice?
VCs.
They haven't, have they done, yeah, start doing angel investing if you can. If you can't do that, well, I would take a step back. How do you know you want to do it?
Well, let's assume that they they've done like the angel stuff and then they just want to start VC. So this is day zero and they're like, oh, there's like all that back office stuff. Like what should I even do?
Talk to someone who's done it before.
And with all of these lawyers out there, right? How do they know
I'm not
who to
saying
trust?
I'm not saying talk to a lawyer. I'm saying go talk to another VC. If you're a founder, go talk. So yeah, you go talk to a founder and then they introduce you to the lawyer. Yes, I like your question. So my first, so when you have problems in life, you go to a professional. But if you don't know a professional, then you might ask a lay person who may know a professional. This is so you get into the thread and the chain. But this is the same as telephone, the game telephone, where the message is distorted and you lose the message. So, if you ask the wrong person, or if they don't have good judgment about lawyers,
Yeah.
or they don't know the law. They might just say like, yeah, like I like my lawyer. They don't actually know what they're talking about. They
Then
just,
you're cooked. So what are like some general guidelines, I guess? Like a website like lawyers.com or some type of website where you can see like the ratings and stuff like that that you recommend?
no, I mean, you have to ask in life all the time, you know, what are the relationships behind the scenes. So like they're, I think Carta and AngelList will recommend you lawyers like the cap, but those are just their friends. So I mean, they're not that I've seen mistakes that those lawyers have made, but the point is everyone makes mistakes, but the point is that it's a network thing. That's what it is. It's a network. And so ask your network, post on LinkedIn. The stronger your network is, the more competent and stronger the network is, the better they answer. And the stronger and more competent you are, the stronger and more competent your network. So actually, my answer is become more competent, and then you'll have better options, I think. Within multiple sources, as much
Yes.
as you need to build conviction about or faith about a lawyer, and then you cross the threshold. And what crossing the threshold means is you commit. So you say, okay, I asked 3 different entrepreneurs about lawyers, and John gave me 3 and David gave me 2 and Priscilla gave me 4, and I talked to all of them because I need to see for myself. And I took notes on all of them. And like, I've thought independently, and I like Brittany. I want her to be my lawyer. And then you sign a contract and you cross the threshold. And you know what? If in 6 months Brittany is not the right lawyer for you, you say, "Hey, I'm going to pay you for what you did, and we're going to settle things, and I'm going to find a lawyer that is better for my business." So you literally just study and commit, and then you study again and either recommit or quit and change things up. Like life is really that simple. It's an experiment. It's iterative, but are you paying attention? Because when scientists experiment, they pay attention. And attention is so important. And kind of circling back to, it's harder than ever to think clearly. It's harder than ever to just pay attention to one thing, but you don't actually have to pay attention to just that thing. There's a million other things going on in addition to your lawyer selection process. But everything is another, like, I don't know that I'm committed to this because I just developed it. The idea that there's this idea of what's sacred in life and what's profane. Are you familiar with this?
I'm not.
Human beings experience the world through 2 distinct modes: the sacred, which is transcendent, meaningful, and ordered, and the profane, which is ordinary, chaotic, and mundane. But I would say to you that whether something is sacred or profane is a function or is downstream of the attention you pay to it. So anything can be sacred if you give it your sacred attention. So this Instagram phone shit, when we give it too much attention, we anoint it as like God when we spend hours on Instagram a day, right? Like that's what we're doing. And I think that's disordered. I don't think technology is sacred. I mean, I'm thinking out loud here. Humanity is sacred.
It's a distraction, right?
No, I mean, I don't think this is ordinary. This is incredible and amazing. It's so amazing. And our computers, but God exists outside of technology. We don't need it to access the sacred. And so, anyways, this is,
We've got to use it for the right purpose, right?
well, no, because I'm not here to tell you what the purpose is. Like, this is America. Do whatever you want if it's legal, right? It's like, that's our philosophy is we're not going to prescribe how to use these things. We're not going to even, we don't tell people what to build. The market tells you what to build. We don't, you start a company. It's not like we like bring you out of school or, um, even your parents, you have all your rights and you can start whatever you want. You want to start a, you know, an app to like help sex workers? Great. Like, no, you do it. I know someone who did that and it's lucrative. You want to start an app to help the finance industry operate better? Great. Like, go try it. We're not going to stop you. We're not going to even judge you one way or the other. Which is a strength. It's a pro and a con of America. We don't judge you, but the market's going to tell you whether that's a good idea or not. And so there is no like right, you know, use of your life beyond, I think, the legal code that your society has will kind of, those are like the guardrails. But there's something about the relationship between humanity. I think fundamentally technology exists to serve humanity and not the other way around. And so I think now you get into industry and finance and all this, like in Silicon Valley and venture capital. Venture capital exists and Silicon Valley exists to serve humanity and not the other way around. I think lately there's been a little bit of like, we're kind of like God tier. Like we we built Stripe. Like, shouldn't you like kiss the ring? And I think it's fascinating because Stripe is an amazing company, but I don't know. I mean, so was IBM, and so I think everything is temporary, and humility is so important. It's just disordered to vis-a-vis other people and other societies and cultures and even animals and nature. I think it's wrong. This is, I won't comment on like the US China, but like the US and Europe. I mean, we're the same people. Now, I mean, the US has a lot of, I think there's like different immigration patterns. But like, I'm not talking about genetics. I'm just saying like we're all human, and so I'm not. The composition of society actually can be different, right? Like culturally, genetically, all these things. But there's two societies that are separate in some ways. They're integrated and interrelated in other ways, but they're separate. Let's say, and is one better than the other? Like maybe one has a higher GDP, maybe one has like better wine objectively. Maybe one has Tesla and the other doesn't. But at a base level, is one better than the other? No. And I think that this is very dangerous. It is probably true that having the best technology is the key to winning wars and such. But is it a war or is it a battle? I mean, we talk about this, like he won the battle, but not the war. You've heard this saying, right?
Pyrrhic victories.
Pyrrhic victory.
Yes.
I mean, like, aren't they all just battles? I don't know.
Yeah. And that's the thing is that innovation, I feel like as venture capitalists, right? We really just want innovation to just like thrive. And in a way, everything has a meaning. But if you think about it, all it really takes is getting that clear mental image. Like we just keep going back to clarity because that's where everything really stems from, right? Clarity and faith on these founders and all these VCs. So I guess talk about like when you're choosing founders, right? Talk about your thesis, talk about the reasons you would choose a founder, and then what are some trends that you want to invest
My thesis, there's a bunch of different overlapping, intersecting theses because the world is rapidly changing, and That's always true that it's never just one thesis. There's like several, but probably right now it's around the idea that we've overinvested and we continue to overinvest surprisingly into, but there's been so much value accretion and foundation laying at at the compute level, at the infrastructure level, and now we're primed and ready to build on top of that and go to sort of consumer applications or enterprise applications that are not built for developers, that are not actually that, like the UX is here. Like the UX for AI is sort of is for all industries outside of sort of tech is emerging. That's one thesis. Two, how do I pick founders? Is that
Yes. Top
intuition?
3 reasons you would pick a startup or a founder.
Top three reasons. It's the same reason you would draft someone in a sports league in like it's your NBA team. It would be like talent, talent, energy, and like worldview. I don't
Yeah.
know. There's
People, people,
there's
people.
definitely
That's it.
myriad things.
You're really investing in the people themselves, right? Like, and then simplify that for you. And then did you talk about the trends as well? The UX, right?
Oh, trends.
Yes.
I mean, they're changing all the time. I see a lot of personal agents is an interesting trend. Observability in AI is an interesting trend. Non-humanoid robotics is an interesting trend. I mean, there's many trends. The adoption of verticalized sort of software for regulated industries is popping up. So yeah, I think trends are interesting because like once you've identified a trend, it's too late. Once you can like really put it into words, I think it's a little too late. So like this is like, you see this a lot in fashion and maybe music where like, they haven't labeled the thing yet because it's so new. That's the timing you want.
Yeah, I agree. And, you've talked a lot about how to break into VC for the viewers. What would be your recommended theoretical 6-month plan to fully break into VC for a lawyer and say like month one, two, three, four, five? Just recap it.
I have a friend who I think he's a lawyer that I think would be like the best legal tech investor in the world, but
Wow.
he doesn't really want to do it. He was curious for years. I should hit him up again, but so Brian, this is for you. This is literally
Brian,
for Brian. Quit your job. Number one. That's the first thing.
month one, quit your job. And then,
Tell your mom and your wife and post on social media that you're doing this. And then the rest will work itself out or not. I would only give Brian this advice if he told me, "Hey Evan, I actually want this."
yeah. And Brian, if you're listening to this, it's, it might sound simple, but
No, it is simple. It is simple. So quitting is like crossing the threshold, right? It's like getting married. It is simple. People make it so complicated for no reason. Quitting is the simplest. I mean, what's hard is like putting a tire on an F1 car. That's really hard. Taking it on and off. There's a lot of different steps. Quitting is like, I quit. That's it.
that's it. Okay, so let's rapid fire a few more questions. If you could invest in any startup from the past, which one would it be?
If I can invest in any startup from the past that like
Any.
I would have loved to invest in Apple back in the day. That would be so cool. Like helping that company grow sounds magical, and it's one of the best It's one of the best American companies. It's one of the best companies, period, of all time. And the people who got to be involved with that are so lucky.
And how about you, right? Like, what is one fun fact about you that most people don't know?
Well, most people don't know like anything. One fun fact: I run half marathons sometimes.
Wow, that's awesome, dude. I freaking love that. And then that was amazing, Evan. For anyone listening who wants to learn more about you or your firm, what's the best place to reach?
Probably like X.
Okay. And I'll put his X in the description
But
below.
the X is just, I try to be it's just my name. I think it's just Evan Buhler
Yeah.
at sign. I mean, I try to be consistent across platforms and just, it's just like, just type in my name.
Yeah, it's Evan Buhler at Talok Capital. That's all you need to type. And then for aspiring VCs listening, does your fund have a VC internship program or hiring for roles right now?
Yes. Yeah, we have one associate right now but yes, he gets paid cash. I'm fine with cash. cash is king is what they say. I actually think equity is king. But yeah, you can also make carried interest in the fund. And I think too often people want to hire and they say like just so again, going back to the sports metaphor, like I'm building it from scratch, and so I can afford this. I'm on my own timeline. Like I'm not in the NFL, and we need to try to win next year. And but like I'm rebuilding, let's say like the Oklahoma City Thunder. So I'm building from scratch, and there are some discrete things, like, I would love to find someone who's just exceptional at helping companies. So, really good with founders, maybe they're really good at, like, the sales motion, or maybe they're really good at marketing, maybe they're really good with product. Those people can all find a role at Talok. It won't be full-time right now, but there's room for you at Talok, potentially. But I'm also my philosophy is, like, just you can make your own role. If you're gifted and exceptional and also respectful and polite and a team player and good with people and willing to learn, hit me up and we can make a role for you.
There you go. And, Evan is the definition of let's see what is out of the bounds and then let's create something. Okay. So out of everyone who two amazing VCs that you will recommend as future guests to our podcast?
VCs?
VC.
Okay, I really like this guy, Drew Gonzalez. He's at Side Door Ventures. He's a principal there, so I can connect you there. And there's a lot. I think if you haven't spoken to Maya Bakai, we went to like high school together. She's pretty cool and funny. She's in New York. She's solo GP like me. We don't have much. She does like consumer and crypto. We don't have that much overlap. She's awesome.
Thank you again. And thanks to everyone who's listening. Comment a question you want to hear from Evan or our next guest. If you
Yeah,
enjoyed this
all the
episode,
questions.
all the
All,
questions,
I want all the smoke. Yeah.
everything. And then make sure to press the subscribe button, like, and share with someone who's interested in getting the venture. We'll see you next time on Break into VC.